Today we had an appeal from lower courts, so we got all the way up to Court of Appeal. And the gist of this is that a chief firearms officer, the Ontario chief firearms officer, was issued a court order and told to give me a certain document. He refused, and he gave whatever reason he did for refusing. I pressed charges for breach of order and for failure to produce a document. So the requested document was an authorization to transport, an ATT document. So in Canada, even if you have a license and you've been background checked for handguns and you're cleared, the problem is you still need an ATT document to transport your legally owned, legally granted handguns from your house to the range and back, from your house to the gunsmith and back.
Okay.
So it's this ATT document that I sought to obtain. I have a license, I'm fully licensed, but Chief Firearms Officer didn't want to give me the kind of ATT that I requested. I requested some very specific permissions. I said I'd like to be able to go to the gunsmith when my gun is broken, no matter what time this happens. I don't want to have to call each time for permission to move my gun from my house to the gunsmith and back. The Chief Firearms Officer wants you to check in each time you move your handgun. And the thing about an ATT certificate is it's not a microchip thing. If you don't have the certificate, you can always tuck it in your pocket. No one would be any the wiser of you transporting a handgun illegally. It's the honor system, and I tried to do everything honorably. I will not move my guns without an ATT certificate. Chief Firearms Officer, without law, without regulation, he said in his discretion he doesn't feel I should be able to have that kind of permission to move to the gunsmith without his previous say-so on each occasion.
So he trusts you to ask him each time you want to go to the gunsmith, but he doesn't trust you to give you blanket permission to do that at any time. Is that correct?
It's very strange. This past month, the Chief Firearms Officer approved my purchase on two separate occasions, two new revolvers. So he knows I'm a reliable person. Anytime you do a handgun purchase in Canada, your provincial firearms officer has to sign off on it. So he knows I'm safe. He wants me to check in each time I'm going to take a non-functioning gun to a gunsmith and back, but he's quite all right having the guns at my house at my disposal. And I mean, either he thinks I'm safe or I'm not. This is really ludicrous.
And I don't see any criminals that are going around and we get all these shootings on TV. They don't get an ATG, they don't get a legal firearms notice. The government already trusts you with the gun. It doesn't magically prevent you from leaving the house with a gun if you don't have one. So it's got nothing to do with public safety. It just makes to make everything a pain in the ass.
It started off as a firearms case because the ATT document is a firearms document. It grew into something much larger. And what it grew into is the Chief Firearms Officer was so insistent on his policies and his discretion. In my opinion, he breached a court order. He's a public servant who additionally failed to deliver a document when an authorized demand to produce that document was made of him. So that's Section 127.1, Section 337 of the Criminal Code of Canada. So what starts off as a firearms issue, it really moves very fast to the Criminal Code as a national issue for the rest of Canada.
Right, because if people can't trust that a court order will be fulfilled, then what is a court order? Is that right?
100%. I mean, if the court order has no validity with regard to this, then why should anyone obey a restraining order? Why should anyone do an alimony order? Why should anyone obey a firearms prohibition order where by court order they've been banned from owning guns? If the firearms officer doesn't obey the orders, why should criminals who have been prohibited from owning firearms, why should they obey their prohibition orders? This is why the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court now, Justice Beverly McLaughlin, she said that if people are free to disregard court orders, anarchy cannot be far behind. The important thing to realize is that if any gun owner, any Canadian gun owner in Canada was charged and tried to advance the arguments that the Crown made in their own defense, they would have been convicted. So we're going to see there's one rule for firearms owners and a different rule for firearms officers in Canada. Is it true you can smear Vaseline on the front and make me look weird?
I'll see what I can do.